And it's like, okay, that's fine, but if you're constantly focusing on what you should have done differently in the past instead of what you're going to do differently next time, again, we're just focusing on an area that maybe can create a little progress, but not nearly as much as just being like, all right, it happened, what am I going to do next time? Hey dancers, it's Kirsten. Welcome back to another video or podcast episode if you're listening there. I'm going to talk today about our relationship with mistakes as dancers because it is so important. And I think a lot of you know that, but I'm not even sure many dancers actually recognize how much of an impact our relationship with mistakes has on our confidence, our mental and emotional experience of our dancing every day or whenever you take class, and also on your performance. Because if you are watching this video because you find yourself getting really stuck, when you make a mistake, you find yourself focusing on it, it affects you, you get frustrated, you can't stop thinking about it, you just want to move on quickly, but you have a hard time doing that, then first, you're definitely in the right place. Second, it's a great indicator that if you change your relationship with your mistakes, you will be able to focus your energy and your mind so much more on what you can actually do to make the rest of your dancing beautiful, because it is shocking how much mental space and energy goes towards trying to not make a mistake. And then when you do make a mistake, beating yourself up for it, that is just not very productive. Although I know from experience, it is so normal. I could talk a lot about my own personal journey with this. I used to be obsessed because I thought this was what I should do. I used to be obsessed with just focusing so much on don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up, doing everything I could to not mess up. I thought that's what I should be doing with my thoughts and with my energy. I thought that's what I should be focusing on. But what I ended up recognizing is during that period of my training where I was so fixated on perfection, which in my mind really meant just not messing up, that my artistry had really diminished. I was so stiff. I was really in my head. I was more insecure than ever, to be honest. And what I've learned moving forward through my journey as a dancer, as a professional dancer, and also now as a high performance mindset coach who helps dancers overcome their mental blocks, build confidence, and use the power of their mind to perform their best consistently. As someone who helps dancers with this, I've noticed it is so much more productive to learn how to tap into this mentality where you can just move on with mistakes, not waste your time and energy beating yourself up about it, and really instead clearing up mental space so that you can focus on what do I want to change? What can I do? What qualities do I want to incorporate into my dancing? That is so much more worth your time than ruminating on mistakes. So of course, you're probably watching this because you know that. So without further ado, let's get into what you can do when you make a mistake instead of beating yourself up about it so that you can just move on and focus on the rest of your dancing. Number one, this will sound radical to so many dancers, but let go of the assumption that you shouldn't make any mistakes. I know this one seems tricky, especially if you are training in a highly competitive environment or you're a professional dancer and you feel like, but Kirsten, I can't mess up. It's my job to not mess up. I completely understand that. It is a weird paradoxical thing where I know we don't want to make mistakes. I know to a certain extent they're not okay in certain environments. However, don't they happen anyway? Even the most incredible world-class dancers out there make mistakes. And so when we let go of the assumption that we shouldn't make any mistakes, it doesn't mean that you're going to become lazy and complacent and make more of them because you don't care anymore. Of course you're going to care. That's such a built-in feature in so many dancers. You care. A lot of times you care almost too much. It's not that you're going to stop caring. It's just that we're removing this unrealistic expectation and pressure that you shouldn't make any mistakes, which is going to be creating a lot more resistance and frustration for you each time you make a mistake because there's this connotation of bad, I shouldn't have made that. Or we ask really unproductive questions like, why did that happen? What could I have done to prevent that? And it's like, okay, that's fine. But if you're constantly focusing on what you should have done differently in the past instead of what you're going to do differently next time, again, we're just focusing on an area that maybe can create a little progress, but not nearly as much as just being like, all right, it happened, what am I going to do next time? By just letting go of the assumption that you shouldn't make any, that can release a lot of that resistance and frustration in the first place that you are experiencing around mistakes. The second point here is to question why you are beating yourself up so much for making mistakes. So many dancers I have worked with as a coach do this simply out of habit. I would love for you to comment below if you're watching this on YouTube and let me know if you relate to this. There is this culture in dance around making self-deprecating comments or visibly looking frustrated in response to your mistakes. And I think it's really just a cultural thing, and sometimes it's also an ego or vulnerability thing where we want to project, don't worry everyone, I know that I messed up, I'm mad about it, so if you saw it, I saw it first. And it's like this way that we shield our ego from the vulnerability of knowing we were seen in our imperfection. Comment if you relate to that, or if that calls you out a little bit. I know, because it did for me too. I say all this stuff because I've experienced it, not because I've been perfect. But yeah, so often we just pick up on this culture around us. If we see other dancers modeling that behavior of beating themselves up for mistakes, acting frustrated, sometimes, unfortunately, teachers even encourage this in their classrooms, which I hate. They'll model frustration towards the students for making any little mistake. And so then the students feel this pressure to show that they know they messed up and to be frustrated with themselves about it, to kind of signal to the teacher, I know, so you don't have to yell at me. So dancers, I'm not saying it's always your fault. Definitely not. I want to be fair and point out the multiple facets that could be going on here. And there are many more than I have time to discuss today. But yeah, question, where is this coming from? Are you just beating yourself up because maybe it's the ego thing where you're trying to signal to other people, I know I messed up. Okay, is that serving you? Or are you just doing it because all your classmates are doing it? So it's the social belonging thing where we all put ourselves down, so at least we're relatable to other people. It's like, well, do you want to relate to that? Is this serving you? Or here's another big one. Are you beating yourself up for your mistakes because you feel that that's something you should do in order to know that you're working hard and to motivate yourself to do better and work harder? That's a big factor that I've seen in a lot of dancers that I've worked with as a coach, where they feel like this hesitation comes up when we start to change their relationship with mistakes for the better, where they're like, but if I stop beating myself up for making a mistake, won't I not care as much? Won't I be lazy? Will I work as hard? Will I be as motivated towards excellence? What I've seen again and again is yes, you will actually have more energy to give to your excellence that is actually being wasted on basically being mean to yourself and beating yourself up for something that's perfectly normal. A mistake, we all make them, right? And we know that, but I think in order to stop beating yourself up for mistakes, we have to let go of this assumption as well that you need to beat yourself up, that it's going to motivate you to work harder. Let's question that. Is it really? Is it really helping you be a better dancer? You probably clicked on this video because the answer is no. So yeah, something to be aware of. The next thing is to focus on what empowered response you want to choose to practice each time you make a mistake. I'm using this language very intentionally. What empowered response, like that can-do attitude, what can you do in response to mistakes? What empowered response will you choose to practice? You're not going to be perfect at it. Hello, we make mistakes because no one's perfect. Alert, newsflash. Yeah, when you focus on what behaviors you want to practice in response to mistakes, you're going to start to build a new habit. You're going to replace the fixation on, I shouldn't have done that, I messed up, with a focus on what can you do? How do you want to move forward? What can you change? That is a much more confident and empowered and useful mentality to have. So some examples of this, one that I've used many, many times is I have this little mantra in my head of when I mess up, play deeper, smile bigger. I have actually trained myself to have this very ingrained response. And I don't mean a sarcastic smile that projects to everyone, I messed up and this is all a joke. No, I take what I'm doing seriously, appropriately, I'm lighthearted. But no, I focus on using mistakes as kind of a reminder to just release excess tension in my body. Since I do ballet, plie a little deeper, maybe put more energy into the next movement. So my focus is really on, when I say plie deeper, smile bigger, it's this reminder where the mistake is actually a stimulus for me to remember to do those things. And usually when I do those things, the next steps are even better. So that's an example that I use for myself, but maybe for you it's something different. So I invite you to explore what are some little empowered responses you'd like to experiment with and find what works for you, so you can practice that again and again to replace the kickback into beating yourself up with some behavior and mentality that will serve you. The last thing is to celebrate when you practice those empowered responses to mistakes, even if it is not so much technical as saying each time I make a mistake is an opportunity to practice self-acceptance. Maybe in your head you repeat, okay, moving on. Maybe that's your little mantra. Whatever empowered response you choose to practice to mistakes, celebrate after the combination or the piece, whatever you've just done. After it's over, take a moment to celebrate and acknowledge that you just practiced moving on in an empowered way. It is so important to celebrate that because that is actually a really awesome thing that you just did. And it can help us rewire our brains to stop having such an extremely negative connotation attached to mistakes. So yeah, celebration is always really, really important. You want to give your brain that recognition of almost like giving a dog a treat. You're telling that dog through the behavior, good, I want you to do that again. Okay, so that's what you're doing with your own brain. Dancers, I know, I clearly talk so passionately about this because it really, really matters. And I know that if you practice even a few of these things that I talked about today, that it really will make a big difference in your confidence, in your ability to dance really well and to enjoy what you're doing as you're dancing. And remember that if you want more help really building confidence, overcoming insecurities, or just various mental blocks that you have that are stopping you from performing to your fullest potential, maybe it's self-doubt, comparison, performance anxiety, intense self-criticism, whatever that is, know that I'm absolutely here to help. That's what I do as a high-performance mindset coach. So you can click the link below, visit theconfidentdancer.com. That's where you can learn more about my individual mindset coaching program for dancers and sign up for a free 30-minute consultation. That's really where you and I can connect and talk about my coaching process, your goals and challenges, and honestly see if working together would be a good fit. It's a no strings attached conversation, so there's no risks to you, so give yourself a chance. And if you're even remotely interested, reach out. I'd love to see if working together would be a great support to you. Let me know what point really resonated with you the most in this video. Make sure that you're subscribed to either the podcast or the YouTube channel, wherever you're watching or listening to this, so you don't miss next week's video. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.